today. We're gonna do a quick roll call of the governing committee members and then kick it right off with Greg Rogers, who's gonna do a presentation on the issue coming up on the single means of egress. So Christine, are you ready? Do you want to try the roll?
Sure. Sean, I have you. Tim Diehl.
I'm here.
Great. Brian Adams, he was excused. Ted Black.
Present.
Thank you. Rick Boisford. Wendy Collins.
I'm here, thank you.
Hi, Wendy. Michael Desrochers.
Here, thank you.
William Hyde.
Present.
Ed Kamitsky.
Here. I'm here.
Andy King.
Here.
Kevin Lefebvre. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Kevin? Thought I saw him. Jonathan Lund.
Here.
Michael McShane.
I'm here.
Great. Larry Medina. Doug Nelson.
Hello.
Kelly Nicolello.
Here.
And Mark Wassom.
I'm here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you all. We'll kick it right off with Greg. Greg, thank you for I don't know if you were arm twisted or what happened, but agreeing to jump on and kind of give us an update on some of the emerging issue on single means of egress. I know been talking in some of the circles I run about the whole sprinkler issue with some of the multifamily attacking that here in New Hampshire, but so far we haven't heard the single means of egress, but it seems to be rampantly running across the country here. So I'll let you run with it. Thank you again for jumping on.
Yep, absolutely. I just want to make sure everybody can see my screen.
I got it on my end.
I got a thumbs up from a couple of people, so I'm good. So I'll go ahead. Just to introduce myself, I'm Greg Rogers. I retired last year as deputy chief. I have about 30 years of fire service experience from Colorado and most of it in Washington State. I also currently serve as chair of the Fire and Life Safety section with IAFC. And I'm also employed by Inspection Reports Online, or IROL, and I'm their Western Regional rep. And I add that here because I need to give them a big shout. I wouldn't be able to continue doing what I do and continue providing the information that I provide, as well as the opportunity to serve as chair of the Fire and Life Safety section without their continued support. So I want to make sure that I give them credit where credit's due and allowing me to continue to do what I do, as well as be able to serve on the Fire Code Development Committee. So the issue that I wanted to talk about is an issue that actually just surfaced about a month ago with the International Association of Fire Chiefs. This issue came up, and it's not really a new issue. It's been kind of going around. And those folks that know from California already know you guys dealt with legislation last year. We also dealt with it in Washington State. So I think the important pieces of what we want to try to do is we're also working on developing a position paper in regards to IAFC, and we're also working with IAFF to try to create an opportunity in regards to position papers and let people know and have them understand what the issues are and educate them a little bit behind the scenes. So what I want to share with you today here is just a little bit of history. So going forward with that, the title that you see on this slide here, where it says the Insight single stair construction could unlock local affordable housing. So now I will tell you that is a title of a article that was written that I actually Googled. And I use this on this slide to indicate and show and try to educate everybody in regards to this is the topic that is being used in regards to this issue, in regards to legislation that's moving forward. And they use it in regards to affordable housing. The other topics that I have here are actually just topics that when I Googled it, these are some of the topics that came up. And I think it's important for us to understand some of the parts and components of where this is coming from, because they basically say, hey, if we can get rid of this long corridor connecting two exits, we can be able to utilize more space, we can have more developable area, and we can walk through this. Therefore, it creates more affordable housing. And what the issue is currently there's a 2 egress requirement in the international codes once you go above 3 stories. What they are trying to do with this legislation is they are trying to get a single means of egress for 6 stories and below. So, and I'll walk through a couple of other slides that'll walk you through some of those parts. So a little bit of the background and what I've been able to learn as we go through this process. So this issue actually started in the city of Seattle, and it's very important to understand some of this background and some of this history. The city of Seattle has actually had this requirement in their code for 5 stories or below. Now, remember, I said 5 stories and below, not 6. All of the legislation wants to go to 6 stories and below. They use 5 stories and below. And they've had this requirement in the city of Seattle code since 1970. They utilize this based upon their response times, their staffing levels, as well as in regards to the fact that they have a hydrant on almost every corner in Seattle. And they also specified it in regards to they only have it and they only allow it in certain areas. So if you look at the second bullet that I have here, and this is what they call, and when you talk about this legislation and this information for Seattle, they actually call it the Seattle Special. They call it the Seattle Special. They actually only allow it in certain zoned areas within the community. And again, it's based upon response times, suppression readiness, emergency communications, water supply, and fire safety control. You can see the checks that are there. The other thing I will tell you is the city of Seattle is the only department in Washington state that is a class 1 fire department. And they're a class 1 fire department rated by the Washington State Rating Bureau. In Washington state, we do not use ISO. I will tell you, we have about 5 to 6 departments within the state of Washington that are class 2. I will tell you class 1 for the Washington State Rating Bureau. If you compared that to ISO, it would be like a 0 for ISO. It is literally impossible for anybody to get to that point unless you have 4 to 5 person staffed engines or trucks. And it is literally the city of Seattle lost their class 1 and just recently got it back. So this is the reason why I bring this up. This is in regards to a little bit of the history. If you've seen some of the legislation in your state, this is actually a duplicate copy of what the city of Seattle sent me of their requirements. If you've seen legislation in your state, these are the exact items that they have in their legislation and exactly what they're quoting. Again, when you look at 7.1, it talks about buildings not more than 6 stories above grade plane. Some of them are changing them where it's 6 stories or less. The other thing is you look, the building 7.4 right here says the building shall be not less than 1 hour fire resistant rated construction and shall be equipped throughout with an automatic sprinkler system. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as we continue to move forward. The other thing is it talks about some of the exit passages, the exit distances. It minimizes some of that stuff. If you look on the next requirements, when you get down, 7.9 talks about the travel distance, where they shrink some of the travel distance. I also want to point out 7.11, which talks about elevators shall be pressurized in accordance with section 909. And that includes the elevator lobbies, as well as the requirement for the exit stairwells to be pressured, the single means of egress exit per stairwell to be pressurized, excuse me. So I think those are important features and facts to point out as you continue to move forward. because you got to remember they're talking about affordable housing. And again, I'll get back to that in just a second. So these are some pictures of what I got off the internet. And I use this throughout my presentation to kind of give you a barometer of what they're talking about. So the picture off to the right where it says second egress building code change. This was actually taken from a video presentation that I found online that they were doing up in Canada. I will tell you right now, there's 2 provinces in Canada that are dealing with this same legislation and issue moving forward, and they're in the same boat that we are in and also having the same conversations. I will tell you, when I watched the presentation via video, it is interesting. They think the fire services response is going to be the issue in regards to egress for the occupants only. They don't even take into consideration firefighter operations. They don't take into consideration standpipes. They don't take into consideration a lot of information. And this is some of the stuff that I want to share with you. So if you look at this picture again on the right-hand side that says second egress building code, when you look at it, it says 2 stories. So now what I want you to imagine is 3 stories, because the current requirement in Canada is for 2 stories. So imagine this being the US, this is 3 stories. So 3 stories is allowed 1 single egress. Anything above that is allowed 2. Most of the legislation and all the information moving forward is what you would see on the next building over, which is 6 stories with a single egress. I will tell you, when you talk to anybody or see any of their presentations, the first thing they will talk about is that the second means of egress is done through a ladder truck. They are literally considering the second means of egress. And if you see in their demonstration and what they have here, the ladder truck in regards up to the 6 stories, that is what they state is the second means of egress in regards to a response, as well as other ladders that can be used from 3 stories and below, or potentially 4 stories, depending on what the height is. So the picture on the left-hand side, I want to kind of point out a few things. If you look, there's some markers on here. And again, since I got this from a Canadian presentation, it's all done in metric systems. But you can see 6 stories right here. It says right now the only thing in the US that allows 6 stories for a single exit is the city of Seattle and New York City. 5 stories is Japan, Netherlands. In NFPA 101, it's 4 stories or below, and ICC is 3 stories or below. Again, what you see highlighted here is in Canada, which is 2 stories or below, and they're trying to take Canada up to 6 stories. So this is some of the information that we're dealing with and some of the stuff that we potentially will see moving forward. The other thing is I want to go back to the affordable housing, and I'll put a couple of bullets up here in regards to some of the things that we've looked at and some of the things that we've digested in regards to these requirements. But realistically, we're trying to explain to people this is not going to create affordable housing. It increases the cost of construction. One being because you're going from a 13 system to a 13R system. I don't have to tell everybody on this presentation the difference between the 13 system and the 13R, as well as the difference between what you're going to have to do for maintenance and operation. The other thing is the increased cost of construction, because now you're not going to allow Group R buildings to be constructed 50 feet or higher with type 5B construction. It's going to be a mandated 1 hour fire resistant construction, which we all know is going to increase the cost of construction. We all know, based upon inspections that we go and do in our environment and our area, we also know the problems and issues that we deal with apartment complexes today, just trying to maintain those firewalls and those fire ratings. Next is the pressurization system. The pressurization system for the elevator shaft and the stairwell, I guarantee you that is going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars just for these buildings. And my main concern is the continued maintenance and operations for these systems. Continuing down through what we've been able to digest, moving forward is looking at the historical perspective of the minimum of 2 stairs in regards to an R2 for 4 stories above grade plane, as well as the requirements for standpipes for 4 stories or more. The issue in regards to 35-foot ladders and some of the other stuff moving forward in regards to rescue of occupants. as well as looking in regards to ground ladders versus ladder access. Again, this goes back to their theory that the second means of egress is going to be the fire department providing that ladder for the means of egress. And I will tell you, just to give you a note, because I saw that he joined on here, Sean DeCrane, we're also working with IAFF. IAFC is working with IAFF to develop some of these position papers and some of this position moving forward. So our concern is eliminating the code requirement in the R2 occupancies. And our other concern is eliminating this and bypassing the national code process. We are very concerned in regards to this legislation that's moving forward and bypassing the consensus process, whether it be ICC or NFPA. It's like, look, we have a code process and this is what we should be using. The other thing that I will tell you while I'm sitting here, and I don't know if I shared it when I shared the slide, but the city of Seattle and the city of Seattle's fire department actually spoke against the legislation in Washington state. They have specifically said, and they have told me that this is not something that should be adopted statewide. This is something that's very specific for specific areas. So it's interesting when you talk to people of where this came from and how it's been morphed and the conversations and discussions going forward. But I will tell you this much, it is very concerning to IAFC, it's very concerning to me, and it's very concerning to IAFF that all of a sudden we're starting to circumvent the national code process and the experts and take them out of this and starting to write code via legislation. The other issue, again, this goes back to the consensus process. So I don't want to beat a dead horse. All of you on here understand the code process, the consensus process, and understand the importance of getting that to go through. The other thing is our other issue is in regards to what we're dealing with in modern hazards. We all know back in the 70s and 80s, you had anywhere from 15 minutes plus if you had a fire based upon the materials that were in your house to be able to get out of your house before you had flashover. Literally 5 years ago, you probably had 3 minutes to get out in regards to that evacuation based upon the materials we have. It's astounding now watching what we have in regards to lithium-ion batteries and some of the videos that we're watching from UL Fire Safety Research Institute, and watching some of the YouTube videos that you see out there, that theoretically right now you have seconds to get out of an occupancy. It would fathom me to realize some of the stuff and the modern hazards that we're creating that would be included in this single exit structure. And it behooves me, because I think if something happened on the second floor, you're basically eliminating an exit, even if it happened in that exit stairwell. If it happened, you would be eliminating an exit passage for everybody from the second floor all the way up to the 6th floor. And I think part of our issue is moving forward is we need to make sure that we understand, or get these folks to understand, it's not just about the importance of maintaining that exit stairwell. It's also importance about the different options. And I can tell you, there's going to be a lot of communities out there that don't even have a ladder truck, don't even staff a ladder truck. And you're trying to think about using that for your second means of egress. That is unrealistic. The other thing is in regards to this issue, is looking at it in regards to the individuals that are living in these environments. Remember, we're talking about our occupancies, and we're talking about our occupancies in a holistic approach. So we're talking about hotels, motels, we're talking about apartment complexes, we're talking about a senior apartment complex. So the thing about it is you also have to think about mobility. You also have to think about many different things as you walk through this perspective. The other issue is the IAFC is going to be coming out, as I said, with the position paper. We are going to be urging fire service leaders to oppose this type of legislation, not just specifically because of the second stairwell access. I mean, that's going to be our main focus, but our other main focus is going to be focusing on the consensus process and the code process, and saying this needs to go through the design process and not start writing this in legislation. Because I guarantee you, if this moves forward and this is successful in areas and successful with legislation, we're going to see this moving forward. I'll also say another note that I was thinking about this morning as I was thinking about this presentation. And I thought, man, this is kind of interesting that planners, builders, and everybody else want to go to a 6-story building, require a full 13 system from a 13R. And I thought, man, if they want to rely on sprinklers so much, maybe we should have the same conversation with them and say, maybe we should adopt residential sprinklers if we're so reliant on a sprinkler system for a 6-story building. If it's good enough for a 6-story building, why don't we put it in single family dwellings? It just amazes me that it's ironic that we're having this conversation and they're bringing this up. But I also think the other issue is in regards to the long-term maintenance, not just what's moving forward. So I'm happy to take questions. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to answer anything via email. If you want my email address, and I'll put it in the chat box. So that way everybody has it. But if you want to reach out to me or you have any other information, please let me know. And I will tell you, we are aware of, and I'll pull it up here real quick in my email inbox in regards to what I've been sent, but I think we have 10 states that currently have this issue, as well as the 2 Canadian provinces. But currently I know we have Colorado, California, DC, Hawaii, Minnesota, New York, Ohio, Tennessee, Virginia, Vermont, and Washington State. All have current legislation that have been dropped. I see 3 hands up, but I don't know who was first. Rob was first. Rob. Hey, long time no see, Rob.
Hey, long time no see to you, Greg. I appreciate it. This was very well done. I appreciate it. And you addressed a lot of the issues that Colorado has addressed as well. One of them, though, that I don't think we've addressed, the fire code is becoming more of an all hazards code in some instances. And for me, a big concern I would see, I mean, if you were to get an active shooter in one of these buildings, tactically, how do the police get into that space? They would be pushing the shooter into people that are trapped above. And I think in those cases, you do not want to set a ladder truck to become a victim as well.
Yep. Well, and that is another thing that we are, I don't mention it in my presentation because I try to focus on the fire side, but you are absolutely spot on in regards to earthquakes, everything else, even an active shooter. I mean, even a hostage situation, we have to think about it in regards to, I think the bigger picture is we have to think about it as we talk about the legislation, not only in regards to fire, but as well as emergency management, law enforcement, and all the other perspectives and parts and pieces that play into this role. So you're spot on, Rob. Thanks. Kelly.
Yeah, Greg, a lot of great points. A couple things I'd just like to bring up. One is we need to get building codes, the building code officials in line with this too, because this is published in the codes on the building side, not the fire side. Number one. Secondly, if we go back into the building code, what's one of the very first things in the fire code, both? What's one of the very first things historically that we dealt with in the codes? Exiting. And why did we deal with exiting? People were dying. Why? They only had one exit. That's what they got to. So we need to also approach this from the historical standpoint, that we've had a consistent loss of life when we've had buildings built with only one exit. And we had to make sure we had that in our presentation when we move forward with talking to legislators.
Yep. Well, and I will share 2 nuggets with you. One thing, and one of the other reasons why I love using the photo with the building that was on the left that depicted the different countries and their different requirements, is because when you go and talk to these folks, they constantly bring this up, that, you know, they have the safest fire, you know, we're the worst fire history, or one of, you know, I think we're rated 1 or 2 when it comes to fire loss or fire deaths and injuries country-wise. But if you look at that list in regards to that photo, they all say, well, this is a proven fact. It works here and they're still safe, but you're not comparing apples to apples It's not the same environment. It's not the same area, and it's not the same thing. I will tell you, and it was interesting, even though Rob brought it up, I did hear the state legislator in Colorado actually said that if the fire service in Colorado wasn't going to support it, he was going to have the folks from Washington State come and testify. I actually laughed when I heard that because we testified against it in Washington State. So I thought it was kind of funny and ironic that he mentioned that. Wendy?
Yeah, our legislators, obviously we saw that legislation last year. What it ended up coming out as is that we will submit a report to the legislature, recounting or trying to discuss our objections. So we got the opportunity to sit down and meet with the group that was pushing this concept. They definitely threw New York under the bus, happens there all the time. They definitely, works just fine in Seattle.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I'm super thankful to have this this background. So that helps a lot. We did talk with them about exiting, obviously, because that's one of, just like Kelly said, the response to that argument was simply, well, when you look at the fire deaths, there's no documentation about fire deaths because of a single exit. That if people died in those fires, it was because somebody left a door open or some other system failed. So sort of just this broad overreaching, it had to be somebody else's fault kind of concept.
Right.
But I hadn't thought until this meeting about the active shooter and other police activities. Have we had discussions, or has there been outreach to the other, PD, SWAT, those groups to go ahead.
So I was going to say, I do know they're reaching out to those groups in Colorado and having those conversations. I do not think they've reached out to those. I do believe our state chiefs association in Washington reached out to law enforcement in Washington, but because it's going state to state, it almost is a state issue. And I think once Sean DeCrane and I get our heads wrapped around it in regards to the International Association of Fire Chiefs and IAFF, and where we potentially might be able to get their members as well as our members and everybody else involved in this state legislation and issue moving forward, I think at that point, me and Sean would be able to say, okay, look, let's find these other organizations that we can contact and get them on board as well.
Hey, Greg, Kelly here real quick. Instead of active shooter, because active shooters are more in a public space, maybe the route to take on that is really the hostage taking issue.
Right.
And not so much, my point is don't lump the two together.
Right. Yep.
They have two different actions and two different effects, and hostage taking happens much more prevalently and than active shooters do, even though active shooters,
Yep.
have more people they affect. They're both still logical arguments, but they should be kept separate.
Right. Michael, you had a question? Wendy, did we answer everything? I wanted to make sure you put your hand down. So
yeah, no, I'm fabulous. Thank you.
Okay. Michael?
Chief, thank you for the presentation today. The timing seems to be perfect. So I serve as the Vermont State Fire Marshal, where we did have some housing study stuff that hit on this single exit. Fortunately, I ran this summer study group, so we beat this off. However, I also serve in the capacity of president of the National Association of State Fire Marshals. We are going to be putting together a position paper as well on this. So the timing of this is perfect. All great points. But there's a lot of education that needs to be had here with all these housing advocacy folks, because my experience has been they don't know what an exit is. They don't know what the components of an exit system are. So there is a range of lack of education that I've seen from my perspective. So good presentation. Thank you for your time today.
Absolutely. And if you want some of our information and sheets that we're working on in regards to our position paper, please reach out to me. I'll put my email address in the chat box.
Perfect, sir. Thank you.
Next, I think it's, and I'm Rashawn.
I'm sorry, did you mean Shamim?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry. Yes.
Sure, I just, I'm listening to your presentation intently and I just keep going back to the idea that somehow this is saving money and resulting in more affordable construction and housing. And I just wanted to share one angle, and I think that's completely false. You know, in terms of safety and the events that occur afterwards from incidents, you know, there's no savings. But one angle that I wanted to share that may or may not be helpful in arguing against this, particularly to legislature. My organization back in 2017 and then recently did a refresh of a study looking at insurance costs and focusing on commercial property insurance and builder's risk insurance. And from when we did this study in 2017 to what we found now, and we're getting ready to publish the refresh of that study later this month, we found that the way that insurance rates are determined has changed drastically. So now there are very sophisticated models that look at all of the aspects of your building. And the cost of insurance is rising. And I would not be surprised if we checked with insurance consultants, not having a second stair in your multifamily building has got to increase your premium beyond what savings you would receive by having a larger floor plate. So I'm happy to help maybe put some numbers together or get some numbers to help sort of share that. Because on the legislative side, that affordable housing argument seems really attractive, and to be able to combat that with some actual numbers, I think would be helpful.
Yep. So I would ask you if you would do me a favor, zap me an email. I would love to connect with you and get some of those numbers, because I think if we can share that with our other resources going through as we start presenting some of this information, that will say a lot. I appreciate you offering that.
Sure thing.
Joe McElvaney. I'm really hesitant to calling on Joe McElvaney.
That's okay, no problem. So I can get two things. If you talk to the police department, responding to multifamily housing, one of the most challenging call they do is domestic violence. So I think we should include that item in there, right? Besides the hostage or active shooting, the domestic violence issue. Number two, when you think about our fire losses, I think of the Station nightclub. Everybody tried to go through that one exit and look at that tragic event. And I think we can show how people went out one exit and those challenges, and we can have multiple. I think even the ghost fire had, you know, most people. So I think we could look for some historical fires, even though maybe one-story buildings, show that one exit does not work, right? And I think we could look at historic Beverly Hills Supper Club, you know, to think of a whole bunch of them. And I think we could use them as examples to help the cause. That's all I got.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Somebody says I'm supposed to wish you a speedy recovery.
Slowly getting there. Broken
All right.
ribs, broken sternum.
Well, stay good. Our thoughts are with you. Glad you survived the car accident. Randy?
Thanks, Greg. In response to Shameen, one of the items that we keep talking about is them saying construction will be more affordable. And a lot of the stuff that I've seen and how they're framing it, it's not necessarily that construction will be more affordable, but they will be able to provide more affordable units within some of these buildings with the extra space. So it's a different twist on their argument without saying that, hey, we'll be able to build things cheaper if you let us do this, using the same words. So I think it's important that we key in on how they're using the word affordable as it relates to this discussion here.
Thanks, Randy. I don't see any other hands, so Sean, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you very much. I don't know, I just had to step away for a quick minute to, but Sean DeCrane had to jump off. I was gonna grab him for a second, but it looks like the IAFF is opposed to this and they're gonna try to do a bunch of outreach, which I don't know if I missed that in the conversation, but
Yep. So
great.
I'm working directly with Sean DeCrane, and we're working together and getting this outreach and information out. We're also probably going to include in the National Volunteer Fire folks as well. And my goal is to try to get all of us on the same page and rowing in the same direction, and try to get ahead of this as far as we can. I know we're already a little behind the curveball, but I could tell you, from going last year, from just having California and Washington State looking at this in study committees and now having it all across the country and in 2 provinces in Canada, it's like, holy cow, who is launching this stuff? It is insane. So there's lots of talk and lots of conversation, but we're definitely in the right arena and the right format. So I appreciate it, Sean. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. And I know they teed up a special committee on housing, and there's a ton of bills. Is it in New Hampshire? And like I said at the beginning, they're targeting trying to limit the sprinkler protection even more than we already lost 1 and 2 family, like many others. And they're trying to go up to 4 family right now. So it's going to be a constant educational battle for this stuff. So again, thank you, Greg, and look forward to hearing more as this develops. And I'm sure we'll all be working together to make sure we get the decision makers hopefully steered in the right direction. So just a couple of quick reminders. I think Christine's put a couple notes in there. If you haven't already, please just put your name and information in the chat so we can keep a record of who's kind of been with us today. That would be great. And then if we're ready, I'd just move on to anything on the agenda that we need to adjust or any corrections anybody sees. Seeing or hearing anything, I'll take a minute to entertain the approval of minutes for our January 18th meeting. Any motions on that?
I'll make a motion, McShane.
Colin, second.
All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion? In favor of that? Anybody in favor?
Aye.
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 I think we got it. Anyone opposed? This might be easier. All right, so we'll do a quick work group updates. Before we kick off on that, I want to throw a plug in there. I think Carl's, with some of his travel and stuff, are a little bit lagging on getting the meeting invites out, but Emerging Issues and Trends meets the 3rd Monday of the month at 2:30 Eastern Time. Public Awareness is the 2nd Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Training and Education is the 1st Monday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. And membership is the 3rd Tuesday at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. So I think any of the groups would be happy to have some more members, and we're always interested if some of the other interested parties want to participate. You're more than welcome to, so we can get the messaging out. I'll start off with actually, Brian's not on the call for member engagement. He wasn't available today, so we'll skip that one. He definitely could use a couple more people on his group if you're so inclined. And let's go with Michael Desrochers for Emerging Issues and Trends.
Good afternoon, everybody. Chief Rogers, you stole my thunder today because we had our Emerging Issue and Trends work group meeting on Monday, and the single exit was actually our topic of our conversation. So that's where we are right now. We discussed that single exit in some details, and in fact, some of the issues Chief Rogers brought up, we had discussed in our little work group here. Second note is our PowerPoint program that Kelly and I first set up. And then Sean Toomey and I instructed last year. That program has been kind of updated some with a lot of changes to the optics of it. I'm going to send that out this afternoon to the Emerging Issue and Trends Work Group, and then I'll copy some others with this. And everybody feel free to take a look at it. But it's a nice PowerPoint program that kind of covers a lot of the work that we've been doing over the past couple of years. And it also highlights how our group interacts with the other fire service membership council working group. So stand by, I'll get that out as soon as I can. So thank you.
Thank you for the update. Anybody have any questions for Emerging Issues and Trends or thoughts? One other thing, I think just as we move through the year, if anyone has any information or ideas, please make sure we share it about, and so we can get work on our kind of our scope and our messaging. Public awareness, Kelly.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. We did not meet earlier last week. Most of that is a issue I had with scheduling. I'll just leave it at that. So I've got really nothing to report other than inviting anybody who wants to be in our meetings can be with us and be a part of the group as they wish.
Thanks, Kelly. And you guys are scheduled for should be good, hopefully good to go for next month.
Yes.
Yeah. How about training and education? Is Mark Hugh or Mark Hugh here?
Yep. Hi, everybody. Just a couple quick updates. Like I've talked about before, we've got a couple of webinars coming up that our group has put together and kind of co-sponsoring with the ICC. The first one's on March 13th. It's carbon monoxide safety in the built environment. And the second one is May 8th. That's going to be a 2024 fire code update. So these are in the Learn Live platform, which is a weekly training over the lunch hour. At least I think in the central time zone, it's the lunch hour. It'd be plus or minus, depending on where you're at. But encourage you to take a look at that. I've been trying to work with the ICC folks to see where we're at on some advertisement and that we could send out and ask this group to help share, but having a little trouble with that. So hopefully we can get that out soon and actually get some advertisement out for that with the hopes of getting a good crowd in there for those classes. So that's really what we've been working on. Like some of the other groups, we didn't meet this month just with busy schedules and other things going on, but our next meeting will be the first Monday of the month. That's going to be March the 4th, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. Would be glad to have anybody join us. We've got some additional webinars we'd like to do later in the year, and we're always looking for ideas that we can push forward to other associated groups. We'll be looking for recommendations for classes at the annual business meeting here coming up before too long. So lots of opportunities. Just love to hear the ideas and hopefully some folks that might be willing to help take some of those things on and move them out so we can reach other groups. So I think that's all I've got.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I haven't talked to Mark a little bit over the last month. I think it's critical if we can get information to him on ideas for training and education. I think some are through a combination of the groups, but that's how we're getting some of our little topics before our meetings, but then we can expand that out to the greater good for more than just us. I think it'd be great. So, Director Metz, you have an update for us.
I do. Thank you, Chairman Toomey. The board has been pretty active. A couple items to update you on. One of the bigger items that's happening right now within ICC is appeals hearings. And yes, you can appeal codes that are going into effect. And we actually have 6 appeals that are going to be heard related to the International Energy Conservation Code. So IECC may not be something that fire service is heavily following, but we will be having hearings February 21st to 23rd. You can watch those online, information on our website. But I think it'd be interesting to tune in because it gives you a good idea of what a hearing process would look like if something into the fire code went in that we had issue with or wanted to contest the process. This is the same process that we would follow as the board of directors if somebody was going to file an appeal on fire code. So doesn't happen very often, but it's happening now. Voter validation, Group A code hearings right now. March 8th is the date that you need to get your voters validated. Remember, this has to happen every 3 years. So everybody, since we're at the start of a process now, needs to go in and revalidate their voters. If you do nothing, you will be left out and unavailable to vote later on this year. So you would be doing that if you are the designated representative for your jurisdiction. You need to log into your My ICC account and go to the electronic validation process there. And you could either remove names, add names, or redesignate them. And that process is a little confusing sometimes. You go into the name, you have to redesignate what their role is. Are they an enforcer? Are they an administrator? And reconfirm that they work for your agency. And then it will start an email string that will eventually allow you to revalidate that person once ICC runs their credential check. We do have an open call right now for moderators. If it is something that you've always been interested in participating in, feel free to put your name forward, and Russ Manning's group will have some discussion, evaluate your code expertise right there, and see if you are a moderator in waiting for us. Awards nominations, those are coming quickly. FSMC has actively participated in awards nominations before in the past, but those are due to ICC by March 15th. I know Carl is probably working with Sean and your leadership on somebody that FSMC may be putting forward for the Robert W. Gain Award. Just want to remind people, the Bobby Fowler Award and the Gerald Jones Award, they're not, fire service is not shut out just because you have the Gain Award. You can apply and submit any name for any of those awards out there. And I know that there are a lot of worthy fire service people that have done a lot to contribute to ICC. Code hearing schedule has been released. It is available online right now. We'll see if we can get a link into the chat here for that. But primarily for FSMC, fire code hearings will be occurring on April 7th through April 12th. So we are in week 1 of that. So if you're coming back for Fire Service Membership Council meeting for the leadership weekend, on Sunday, immediately after our Fire Service Membership Council meeting, code hearings will be beginning. So you can add on to your trip there and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Just a reminder to make plans now if you're looking at your department budget that a lot of you are going to be submitting for approval in spring. Make sure you include a trip out to Long Beach to come to our ABM in your budget process, as well as coming and staying for the second round of committee action hearings that are going to begin on October 23rd. So this is under our new format, second round of committee action hearings in Long Beach, 10/23. That schedule is yet to be determined. And finally, just another plug, Building Safety Month is coming. Mission Possible, make sure you and your local jurisdictions all go to the website and see where the fire service falls. I think that you can somehow work all 5 of the weekly themes into something that the fire service is involved in, and a great way to educate your local elected officials in what you all do for building safety within your local communities. That's all I've got for you guys right now. I hope to see you all back in Orlando. And I do see Director Hyen is also on. I'll acknowledge him and see if there's anything else he wants to add. I didn't see any of the directors on at this time, but Christine may be scanning. Andre?
Yes, thank you, Director Metz, and no, phenomenal job. I was looking for one thing, Building Safety Month or something that you'd leave out, but you checked every single box, and yeah, you always do a great job for this team. And so I'd just like to personally say that I'm a code official in Colorado. I am really grateful to see this issue about single stairs taken up by people on the fire side with the experience that we need to collaborate, and that's been going as a really good conversation here in Colorado. So I just want to say thank you very much for the presentation and the lens that you're putting on this, because you bet I'll be taking some of your talking points right back to some of the other code officials I'm reporting to this to in my capacity in my chapter as well. So just wanted to let you know that that's very much appreciated, and I look forward to the more work that we can do together to make sure that we're in lockstep.
Thank you both for being on the call and for sharing information. It's great. I'm going to call actually on throw Christine under the bus here real quick, but Christine's been working on the battery energy storage systems group, and I was hoping she might be able to give us a quick update on the work that they've started. So Christine.
Sure. So the committee is made up of 22 individuals from across the country, and we've had 1 meeting so far. Work groups will be meeting next week. Most of them. We have 4 work groups. Manufacturing, storage, and recycling is one. Micromobility and electric vehicles is another. Residential energy systems and commercial energy systems. So we have 4 work groups, again, who will be starting to meet next week. The general monthly entire committee meetings are the first Thursday of every month at 2 p.m. Eastern. I know a lot of you are either on the committee or as an interested party within this meeting. So, but if you're not and you'd like to be an interested party to either the membership, the monthly meetings or the mid-month work group participation, I'm going to put my email in the chat, and please send me an email and let me know, and I'll get you added to the list. So we're really excited to start the work that we know is going to be a lot of work over the next 9-10 months. So we look forward to seeing what comes out, and we'll be reporting back out to the board by April. So that's all I have for now. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I've had the opportunity to jump on the meeting, and I think it's got a great momentum, and I think it's going to be a great outcome on their what they're able to put together. So I'd encourage anyone that hasn't been listening to reach out to Christine to get the info. I guess that leaves a report from me. As I mentioned, I've been had the opportunity to listen in on some of those meetings. The leadership kind of continues to meet weekly to kind of talk about topics and formulate ideas to bring to this to the full group, and then really been working on some outreach to the chairs of our work groups, so we can just have a good start for the year and kind of have a plan as we move forward. We're working just some coordination of some of the upcoming events, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but just still trying to be the new Christine, I guess, and put everything together. So that's about all I have. But Tim, what do you have from your perspective?
Well, like many of you, busy monitoring the state legislators that are in and the bills that are in there, primarily with the EV push and ESS push that's coming through in Maryland, so involved with that. The old continuity and outreach subcommittee from building is no longer there, is now been created or formed into the membership steering committee or council. So I am the chair of that now. So I'll be kind of running dual modes for a little bit, but looking forward to the opportunity to get that program up and running and started on the good footing. We have had one meeting. We're going to have another one in March, and then we have the bigger meeting for that group in person in April. The one other topic that I have going on is one of the other organizations I belong to is ASIS, which is security based, but I am on their Fire and Life Safety Steering Committee, which we meet monthly and have had multiple, we usually have, similar to us, have topics for the security and fire and life safety gentlemen that are there. Last month was about residential alarms, fire alarms, burglar alarms, and the continuity of those panels and the issues with those. Next month is going to be EVs, but just trying to bridge the two groups, and we'll be exchanging information back and forth. That's all I got.
Thanks, Tim. We'll move on to the membership council officers and liaison reports. Do we have anything from building membership council? See anybody on? I called Tim back. Did you jump in on that? Were you on?
Yeah, I was just saying, I
double
didn't see
duty.
Tom jump on either. I know there is a meeting coming up. But I can't for the life of me pull it on my calendar right now, but I know they have a meeting coming up.
Okay. And then the continuity and outreach, I think we should probably switch that to the steering committee at this point. I know you talked a little bit about that, so I think we covered that. Yep. Global membership council, I don't believe we have someone on for today. And are there any others?
I was going to say Mark Matheny, I thought was on here. If Mark's on here, he can speak to the building.
Sean,
actually, Mr. Chair, Bill.
Yeah, we have Bill Nash on.
Okay. Go ahead, Bill.
And thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so Bill Nash, I guess, I'd say I'm in transition from the staff liaison role with the Building Membership Council, but yes, we have Mark Roberts will be actually taking my spot going forward. But relative to the meeting date, Tim mentioned, that is the second Wednesday in March. I believe it's the 13th is when it's scheduled for at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And at that point, they'll continue to do their work. Right now, there's some business to be discussed, obviously, as we head into the leadership week, and any initiatives that are going to come out of there that'll be reported out then. But other than that, that's status quo, other than a little bit of change in staffing for now.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate the update. Anybody else on the other membership councils at all that I missed? Okay, I'm not seeing any.
Sorry, I raised my hand. Can you guys hear me?
Oh, go ahead.
This is Kylie Flynn. I'm the liaison for the Emerging Leaders Membership Council. I put it in the chat, but I was going to reach out to Greg too after this. I want to see if what we can do to help kind of facilitate some of that legislation, that topic, and how we can help with that.
Thanks, Kylie. Make sure Greg gets it. Okay. As far as ongoing business, just a reminder, we've talked a little bit about it today, but the ICC Leadership Week and the code hearings are starting beginning of April 6th. Everyone on the governing committee should have received an email from Carl as far as scheduling for that for hotel and reservations and flights. It'd be great. Our in-person meeting will be during that the 7th. Yep, 7th. So if everyone, as many of us, if not all of us, could be there, that'd be wonderful. It's obviously one of our 2 opportunities to meet in person. It's a great opportunity to connect in person and network, and then be part of the activities that are going on as part of the hearing. So they cover some of our travel, obviously, and then plenty of encouragement to stick around for the rest of the activities during the week. So Doug, I see you raise your hand.
I was just curious. I saw some of the information, but didn't see any specifics. Is there any dinner on like Friday night or anything as far as getting there early on Friday, or just didn't know if there are any plans for that stuff this far out yet?
You'll never get there early, but just, you know, just saying from experience, but Friday night they are talking about doing a group dinner that evening. And then there's been some soft conversations, I would say, about doing something more focused to our FSMC, maybe Saturday after the welcome reception and stuff. So we're still working out those details. Bill Nash.
Yeah, thanks again, Mr. Chair. I probably should have mentioned that during when I reported out. But yes, the Friday event, if anybody's coming in early, we'd encourage you to come in. If you'd like to attend the dinner, we'd love to have you. It's yet to be determined where it will be at, but we'd appreciate an email to gauge if you're definitely going to come in on Friday so we can make arrangements for an appropriate location. And then, yes, on Saturday, if you note, if any of you have a schedule, you can see it. There's a keynote speaker address. That's actually, I believe it's 2 to 4 p.m. on that Saturday keynote address. And I don't think I'm getting out of the box by telling you it would be Henry Green, from previous board president, from that will be doing a keynote address, and then members of the steering committee. And we just kind of formalized this just the other day, where there'll be a roundtable discussion, question and answer forum with the chairs and vice chairs, or it would be the representative for the steering committee that'll sit on a panel and answer questions for the group that are in attendance. So we'd love to have your attendance there as well.
I think thank you. I from talking to Carl, I think I've already had a couple questions about travel. You know, I think especially if you can get in early Saturday or come in Friday night and leave late Sunday, and I think there's some options, but there's some great activities, especially Saturday and of course our meeting Sunday. So do everything you can not to miss those. If there's unique travel situations, please reach out to Carl and he'll figure out what we need to do. So the other opportunity for some in-person travel and outreach is, of course, CFSI at the end of April 29th and 30th. They flipped things around. Most of you probably know it got moved because of the availability of the federal delegation. So the dinner and some of the training stuff is going to be on Monday the 29th, and then opportunity on the 30th for working on the Hill. We do have a couple of seats, I believe, at a table with ICC. So if you have interest in coming to CFSI and would like to be part of the ICC table, please send an email to Carl and I, and we'll go through and see who's try to figure out who we can pull in and join us for that evening and those events. So, all right. Any new business that anyone has come before us this afternoon? All right. Nothing, I guess. Any questions, comments, or anything else? Go to the order from really anyone at this point that's on. I mean, at one point I saw a peak of nearly 70 people on the call, which is great. So open to any, Jonathan.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that one of our fellow FSMC members was promoted to fire chief in the last few days. Congratulations to BJ Hyde.
Thanks for catching that. Yeah, also congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Sean, we also have our new representative from Canada. He probably would like to introduce himself and just say a few things. So.
Kevin, right? Sorry about that.
No worries. Kevin Lefebvre, glad to be aboard, representing the Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs. We echo the same concerns with you. Single egress is one of the biggest detractors to building construction, and affordability can't come at the cost of safety. So we have to make sure we stay our due diligence on this, and anywhere I can throw my hat in on that, I will. Glad to be aboard. I've been in the fire service for next month will be 43 years. I know I look good for a guy who's 80, but started young. And, you know, the Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs really is aligned, and we have representation on the IAFC as well. And again, you know, good partnership with IFF. So I'm glad that we're all rowing in the same direction, and with numbers comes strength. So let's keep up the good work.
Yeah, thanks for joining. One thing I've learned over the last couple of years of being the state fire marshal in New Hampshire and having the opportunity to network with some of the Canadian neighbors, there's more of the same going on than we realize. So I agree that strength in numbers concept is key. So if it's not happening in our neighborhood, it won't be long before you're getting these questions. So I think that the value of these discussions is tremendous.
Well, like you've heard earlier, I was disappointed to see that British Columbia has already got an RFP out to study the single egress when it's, you know, it's not code, it's not supported, and yet provinces are moving ahead. So it's scary.
I think I saw you. Greg, did you put your hand up again? Yeah, there you are. Go ahead.
I did. I just wanted to ask the chief if he knew Chief Coco from Toronto. He's actually on our Fire and Life Safety Section board. He would, if you connect with him, he has some great resources, and we share that connection. So that'll be a great communication link between our organizations.
Yeah, I know the chief. Yeah.
Excellent. Anyone else for questions, comments, go to the order, or we'll just move to adjourn and gain a few minutes back of our day, which I'm sure everyone would love. Maybe get lunch or breakfast or whatever meal you've missed already for the day. If everyone's good, I'm seeing some thumbs up. We'll take a motion to adjourn, and we'll see you on March 21st virtually. And please reach out to any of us with anything in between now and that meeting, and we'll try to put some good information together for the next time we're together. So thank you, and have a great rest of the day.
Motion to adjourn, Diehl.
Thank you.
Second, Christine.
It's done.
Take
Thanks,
care, everybody.
everyone. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.